If you're watching this video, it's probably because you tried to change before. You've watched all the YouTube videos, maybe read some books, but the habits just never seem to stick. In this video, I'll be proposing a technique you can act on today that'll not only give you a way to implement the habits you want in your life, but change the way that you think about building them. I'll dispel myths, break down your limiting beliefs about habit building and yourself, and I'll do it all with a technique that can be summed up in just 4 words. So let's get started. Pretend you're not you. It's a simple phrase, but its meaning is a little deeper than it lets on. And I've split it into 3 chapters. 1. Pretend you're the perfect you. 2. Pretend you're not your past. And 3. Pretend you're still you. Let's start with the first chapter. Founding father and sex fiend Benjamin Franklin was renowned for his interest in self-improvement. He used the term moral perfection to describe what he sought to achieve, supposing that as long as he knew the difference between what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing, he, quote, did not see why he might not always do one and avoid the other. Now, of course, this was a lot easier said than done, but ultimately, in his famous technique for self-improvement, he pretended he was his perfect self. For every week, he would pick one single trait to embody completely in his actions and, more importantly, his thoughts. I like to think of this as a tool to see just how important your perceived identity is in controlling your actions. Because when you call yourself lazy or a procrastinator or undisciplined, and you accept these as a core part of your being, you're basically giving yourself permission not to change. You're saying, I'm a procrastinator, therefore I will procrastinate. But when you pretend you're not you, you can't fall back on it. Sure, you might not be able to pretend you're this perfect person for your entire life, but what this exercise will do is show you that your beliefs influence your actions, and it can only be achieved when you get close to this vision of yourself, when you pretend to be your perfect you. Chapter 2. Pretend you're not your past. If I'm being honest, this chapter shouldn't even be called pretending because you're not your past. The past doesn't exist. This is similar to the previous chapter, and then it tells us not to identify personally with our bad habits. But the focus on the past is important because this is our evidence. When you think of who you are as a person, you look to the past as evidence through the decisions you've made, your failures, your successes, what you've previously cared about, and you go, that's me. But the trouble is when you're trying to change, it doesn't make any sense to look into the past. Stop using your past failures as evidence for why you're not cut out for the life you want. The most practical place this is going to come into play when you're doing this technique is when you fail. No matter what habit you're building, you're going to miss a day, or 2 days, or 3. It's going to happen. But looking back at yesterday and saying, oh, I slept in. Oh, I didn't go to the gym. I've failed is ridiculous. Pretend you're not your past. Pretend you just began today. This is the first moment you're existing. There is no yesterday. You didn't fail yesterday, but you are going to succeed today. This gets at a myth of vertical progress, where people think that you need to show up every single day and build some sort of streak with your new habit, and as soon as you miss a day, you've suddenly lost all that progress. It's easy to think this way, and it's easy to think you're falling back into old ways as soon as you stop. But can I present you with this? Joey Schweitzer from the YouTube channel Better Ideas had a really unique analogy, which is that every time you engage in a positive habit, you are walking down a grass-filled path. You're stamping down the grass, and every day you show up, it gets more and more worn and easier to find your way across. And every day you don't engage in a bad habit, that grass begins to grow over. It becomes less easy to take that path. And sure, if you miss a day and you go back down the road of impulsivity or bad habits, you'll lose a little bit of progress. But what's important is getting back to it. Getting back on the right path after you've recognized deviation is the single determining factor between the people who have the most successful, fulfilling habits in their life and the people who can't seem to make any progress. It's not that these impulses arise and you eventually take the road of the bad habit. It's that once you do, you identify it. And instead of feeling bad about yourself, you let go of the past and keep moving forward. So finally, that brings me to the 3rd chapter. Pretend you're still you. I want you to close your eyes and imagine yourself in 5 years' time. Use the identity you built from the first exercise to imagine the perfect place and ask yourself what daily action it would take to get there, and then compare that to your current actions. If there's a gap between those 2 people, this should scare you. I don't mean to bum you out, but the intention behind this 3rd chapter is to scare you. Humans are way more motivated by avoiding pain than pursuing pleasure. Imagine you went to the doctor and they told you you could have the most amazing body, incredible strength and flexibility, feel amazing, and have great health if you just changed these certain habits. It could be the most perfect version of you, and I'm sure that would be very motivating, but I can think of one thing that would be even more motivating. Let's say you went to that same doctor, and instead of telling you how amazing your life would be if you changed changed XYZ, they told you if you didn't change those things, you would die. The negative consequence of that is so much stronger than the most amazing positive consequence you can imagine. The advice is the same, but the justification is different, and the negative side is much more resonant. So now you understand where I'm coming from. Let's explore this chapter a little deeper. Close your eyes again and get in touch with that discrepancy between your current habits and the person you want to be. Everything you do on a daily basis, I want you to picture you did that for the next 5 years straight. No external circumstance along the way forced you to be a better person. No major life event along that path was enough to motivate you to be the person you want to be. And 5 years from today, you are the exact same person. You might be in the exact same spot you are right now, or you might be off worse. That's only for you to know. But the point is, sometimes the only thing that's going to get you there is fear. You could do a cost-benefit analysis, identify all these sources of pain, what the physical, emotional, social, financial consequences are if you stay exactly where you're at. If this is procrastination, it might be the fact that you have to cram for that test. You're perceived as unreliable by your coworkers, friends, and family. Or even the fact that you just feel terrible about procrastinating. If you really want to go 100%, you could repeat those negative affirmations every day. And it sounds a little counterintuitive, but the fear of those consequences is real and it is motivating. Now, I don't want you to get too caught up in the negative side, because honestly, the biggest thing for changing your habits is the belief in yourself that you'll be able to do it. If you don't think you're going to change, you won't. Optimism and hope are genuinely the most pragmatic approach you can have to life, because before a change in yourself can exist in the real world, it has to at least be able to exist in your mind. So those are the 3 chapters that encompass the pretend you're not you method. And I think my favorite part about this is just how simple it is. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're feeling stuck, all you have to do is remember those 4 words. Pretend you're not you.